Hi, it's Joe Chambers from Chambers Custom and 1911 University, bringing you another mathematical review. Before we get started, remember it's important to establish what your tolerance standards are going to be when you measure any 1911. And what I do here is I use the same standards that we use when we're building new custom guns as the flat line, if you will, the baseline. And it's also important to remember that the measurements that I give you from a gun on these reviews are one sample of one gun from that company. All right, let's get into this. The nickname for this particular gun is Dat Mil Spec Life. You guys are all probably pretty familiar with the Springfield mil spec. This one happens to be a NF serial numbered gun. It's a Parkerized 45 government model with a bushing. This one seems to be a stainless steel bushing. It's got GI sights, it's got a spur hammer, it's got no beaver tail grip safety, just a standard grip safety. It's got Springfield's interlock system, their safety lock system in the mainspring housing there, and a short trigger that's all metal and kind of loose. Yeah, this is just a basic mil spec gun that you can get from Springfield. You know, these guns aren't super expensive. Over the years, I have rebuilt dozens and dozens of these guns for competitive shooters and collectors alike. And some people think that these make for a very good base gun to start with, especially if you live in a state where you can't buy a custom built gun the way you want it. And so you have to start with a base gun and have it customized. Such is the case with the client that sent me this gun for review purposes. This one is new in the box. It has only been fired by the factory. So it was a nice opportunity to get to look at one of these after many years of seeing them and take some actual measurements to give to you. It's got a GI recoil plug system in it. It's got a fairly heavy trigger. And the only negative that I would say about this particular gun is that the plunger tube is loose from the factory. And so, you know, that's something to look out for, I guess, if you're going to buy one of these, is make sure that the plunger tube is tight. But otherwise, it's a very basic, plain Jane mil spec gun. One thing that did surprise me, and you'll see this when we get into the measurements, is the slide and frame on this particular gun is extremely straight. Sometimes you get these lower end guns and the slide to frame is just wonky. They can be crooked in all kinds of different ways. But this one is extremely straight. And also another thing that surprised me was that this particular gun, being that it's an NM serial number, does have a drilled and pinned ejector. A lot of the Springfield guns do not have that. They feel that you're fine with it being Loctited in place, and that's their opinion. So with that, let's get into the numbers. Remember, math don't lie. 3.14 is always pi. All right, the bushing ID is 5835. The barrel OD is 580 for a difference of 3.5 thousandths. The slide ID is 0.7005. The bushing OD is 0.6975 for a difference of 3 thousandths. The bushing can be turned easily with your fingers, which is, on this kind of gun, not necessarily a bad thing, because you have to take the recoil plug out from the front, because they make it like an old original military gun where the recoil plug does not come out from the back. The bushing does move fore and aft in the slide 4 thousandths when the gun is in battery. Barrel hood to breech face gap is 10 thousandths, 0.010. Chamber depth is right at SAMI spec of 0.899. SAMI spec is 0.898. So they're a little short chambered from what I personally prefer. Slide stop pinhole in the frame is 202 on one side and 201 on the other side. Slide stop pin diameter is 0.1975. That gives us a difference, maximum difference of 0.0045. Ejector length is 2.237, which is a little bit short, but it has a shorter disconnector rail on the slide, so that's okay. But it does have approximately 9 thousandths fore and aft movement because the firing pin plate is loose in the back of the slide. The ejector length is 1.035. It has zero barrel leg contact, which we knew that going into it. It's a mil spec. Slide stop hole in the link is 0.205 and the barrel leg height is 100 with a link bridge thickness of 0.097 for a difference of 3 thousandths. That's a good number. It's not a link rider, but you don't have bearing, but these guns function right out of the box. All right, let's get into the slide and frame fit. Like I said, a lot of times when I measure these lower cost base model guns, the frame and slide can be crooked, and it can be crooked like this, it can be crooked like this, it can be crooked like this or like this. It just can be all kinds of craziness inside of there because of their high production numbers. This particular one is extremely straight. I measured it like I do all the other ones in multiple places, and it came out very nice. Slide way width, so the width of the slide ways 0.75490, frame rail width 0.74945 for a difference of 0.00545, so about 5.5 thousandths side to side. Slide way height 0.10325, frame rail height 0.0985 for a difference of 0.0475, so almost 5 thousandths up and down on the first measurement. Excuse me. Slide rail height 0.1165, frame way height 0.122 for a difference of 5.5 thousandths. That's why the gun sounds like it does when you shake them, because it's loose, got a loose slide to frame fit. It's a mil spec gun. Frame vertical impact surface is 335 from the rear of the slide stop pinhole and 331 on the barrel. It's a perfect measurement, it's fine. The one thing that Springfield continues to not do on their guns is cut what we call the bow tie cut on the frame vertical impact surface. What this can cause, because now the barrel is allowed to hit lower down on the barrel legs on the vertical impact surface, is it can cause, I'm not saying it does every time, don't misinterpret me, but it can cause the barrel legs to fail and break off. I've seen it before. Other gunsmiths out there have seen it before. It's a long-standing issue. So if you get one of these Springfields, that's something that you really should correct if you're going to have it built into something. Trigger parts. Trigger pull measures 4 pounds 7 ounces on NRA certified scales. It's got a 25-pound mainspring, I believe. That's as close as I could get the thing to measuring with the system that they have with their safety lock deal. The disco is an unmodified drop-in part at 1.2935. The sear is an unmodified drop-in part at 0.775, and the hammer hooks are measured at 0.023. Now, some of you may be asking, well, what do I do if I have one of these if I want to optimize it a little bit? The first thing that a lot of my clients have done in the past is replace the trigger. The trigger on these guns is very loose, it's metal, it's short, it doesn't fit everybody. So you can replace the trigger. That's a fairly simple job if you have any acuity with sandpaper and files at all. You can also send it to a professional gunsmith and have a beaver tail grip safety fit to these. For some people, like myself, I have a very meaty hand on the backside, and so when I'm shooting these guns and it recoils and recocks, it's going to pinch me on the backside of my hand. I don't like that. That's why I like beaver tail grip safeties. So you can replace that with a beaver tail, but if you do that, you have to replace the hammer also, because this hammer, the spur hammer, will not work with a beaver tail grip safety. So you have to replace that. If you're going to do that, you might as well do, a trigger job. You could probably deal with this sear. I would probably put a new disconnector in it. There are multiple ways to tune up the slide to frame fit. The most popular nowadays is to have it welded and remachined, have the frame welded and remachined to fit the slide. Fortunately, the slide is very straight, so that would be a relatively easy task to do. Other ways that have been done in the past are AccuRail, which is another excellent option, where you send it off to Doug Jones at AccuRail and have him put his rail system in on the frame to fit the slide. You could also go old school, and have it peened and remachined and fit that way. That's not a way that I personally would do it anymore, because we have better options like AccuRailing and welding. So finally, some upgraded sights. If you wanted to see better, you could put a Chambers Custom RDSM plate on there, or just some adjustable rear sights to line up with the front sight, and then a barrel. Because there's no barrel fit on these guns. They're not made for that. It's a mil spec gun. It's a base gun. It's made for entry-level people, or people who want a base looking gun, an old military style looking gun, or people who want to customize one again, who can't get what they want in the state where they reside. So I like these guns. I think for the money they're a good value, and there's nothing wrong with having a good base model gun laying around in the safe or in the truck or even in your holster, if you're confident that it's going to perform with the ammo that you choose to carry. So that's all I got on this one. That's been the review of the Springfield Mil Spec. I'm Joe Chambers with Chambers Custom and 1911 University. And remember, math don't lie. 3.14 is always pi.